Good morning, students. We'll be beginning with the class now. We'll be beginning with the class now. Right, so I have got confirmation on my voice and I will begin in earnest. So, welcome everybody to Unacademy's YouTube platform. So, we are India's largest online learning platform. We are present in several courses such as UGC NET, NEET, JEE, etc. Now, of course, we are also making our mark in management, especially in CAT exam, which is the premier exam, the sort of the flagship exam within management. So I'm going to spend the first couple of minutes introducing you guys to what Unacademy does stand for. After that, I'll begin with today's session, which is on yesterday's newspaper. I'll be conducting two YouTube sessions today. One is on yesterday's newspaper, which is of course the Sunday paper. So lots of feature articles. It'll be a longish session and quite a few articles to talk about from the two newspapers. And then today in the afternoon at around 1:30 p.m. I will be analyzing today's newspaper. Right, and as usual, I will be primarily sifting through the Hindu, which is considered the best newspaper for all entrance exams. Right, and I'll also deal a bit with Times of India. Right, so a little bit on my profile. This is myself, Aritro Dasgupta, and I've been working for more than a decade now. A decade has been completed since I finished my MBA in 2010. That was in the area of forest management with specialization in conservations and livelihoods. This was from the Indian Institute of Forest Management in Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh. Since then, as I told you, more than a decade's experience in the areas of teaching, training, strategy, consulting, and in content writing. My experience has predominantly been India, but I've also worked in the Middle East and been published in North America. The last 5 years, I've been heavily involved with the coaching segment, and rank holders to exams such as CAT, CLAT, and DOJAT, etc., have been my students during this uh, period. So what all you will get as part of the Unacademy platform, let me show you. Our course content is very well structured from the head office itself. Of course, people like us, we do modify certain things to further add value, but your exam syllabus is very much covered. Apart from that, you receive unlimited access. The moment you enroll, you get access to all kinds of features. So very important that you enroll because free classes can only take you up to a certain point, beyond which you do need to take up the paid versions. There are daily live classes. So let me just show you two features, the top two, live tests and quizzes. So live tests and quizzes, you can see on the right hand side, there's the live chat window on YouTube. तो कोई भी आपके questions or queries or doubts हो please आप पूछ लीजिए यहाँ पे. Likewise, if I also have any questions to ask you, any quizzes to take, I will be making use of YouTube's live chat window. You also have our channel, which is mentioned, Crack Management Exams. We now have 838 subscribers. I'm pretty sure that by 2nd October, which is the birthday of the father of our nation, the number will reach 1000. So it all depends on you guys. Go ahead, become subscribers, and here you can catch all previous videos as well. Even if you missed a live session, you can always do recorded sessions. Right. This is a list of some of our top educators. You can take a look at their names, their followers, and their watch minutes. I'm also coming up on the tally, though much behind them right now. But of course, I'll be taking general awareness, so that has its own challenges. So this is a couple of the other teachers as well, and this is to show you a sample of how you guys receive notifications for the different classes. So for example, if somebody wants knowledge on profit and loss, there is a class for you. Likewise, this slide is to show you notifications for the batch formations. You can have a full-fledged batch with either one faculty, as is mentioned at the bottom, or you can have an entire batch for the entire syllabus that requires a number of trainers. That is what is mentioned on top. So just take a look. This is how you receive notifications. These are slightly older screenshots, but the idea is to facilitate you with these things. Okay. There's also no language barrier because we believe that language is a means of communication. So we are present in 16 different languages, whatever helps you communicate in. You may learn anytime, anywhere. The schedule works very well with you because you just need a device. Which could be either a PC, a tablet, or a mobile phone. Just download the sessions and then you can take through all of this. You may interact with the educator to get your doubts cleared. I told you about the live chat window. That's how you do it. There are also live polls which are present. So these polls basically, so one option of course is the live chat window on YouTube, which I showed you. There is also something called unacademy.com. And by the way, today at 4 p.m. I have a class on unacademy.com. Please do not miss that. You receive there the option of taking live polls is much easier. So do go through that. There are live tests and quizzes as well. So for instance, you need to prepare the students. So one thing is on the spot I give you a quiz. जो मैंने अभी आपको दिखाया YouTube window में unacademy.com में polling का option है. दूसरा ये है कि there are centrally coordinated quizzes as well, which is coordinated from the head office. और उसमें पूरा syllabus आता है. तो ये जो पूरा syllabus आता है, ये जो पूरा सिलेबस आता है वो आपको इस चीज में बहुत हेल्प करेगा बिकॉज यू वुड रिसीव डेली लाइव टेस्ट एंड so there are live tests and quizzes. So इसमें you even get an analysis. This year you might be aware CAT is for 2 hours and not 3 hours as has been the trend the last couple of years. 40 minutes each section. So this is actually curated as per the real CAT. So this will help you immensely. You also receive a detailed report and analysis for whatever you give, and there are detailed PDFs and learning material as well. After the class, you may download all these classes as well. I want you guys to look at this slide. So at the bottom, my code is mentioned, which is AD09. इसको आप इस्तेमाल करेंगे तो 10% आपको छूट मिल जाएगा flat off. But even besides that, if you look at the rest of the slide, you will notice that how if you take a longer term course, your bang per buck is much higher. Your payment per month is actually less in that case. So I would suggest all of you go for the 24-month course or at least go for the 12-month course because that will prepare you for n number of topics. We also have EMIs available on the long-term courses, 6 months, 12 months, and 24 months is subscription. So do look at the pricing for each of these as that will help you make a decision. I trust you've all gone through this. You may further read this. Let me just fetch today's newspaper. And on that note, we will begin with today's content. Right now, it's yesterday's newspaper. I'll also do today's newspaper at 1:30 p.m. Trust you've all gone through this. As usual, I will be beginning with the Hindu. Okay. So let me begin first of all with the top story, which is I had told you last time that the Prime Minister of India has spoken to his counterpart from Sri Lanka, who is recently been voted, Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa. So Mahinda Rajapaksa during this call, one of the things that was discussed is the fact that our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, mentioned to Mr. Rajapaksa about the aspirations of the Tamil people. Tamil people form Tamilians form a significant minority in Sri Lanka. I don't have exact figures, but something around 15 to 20%. So they, of course, have had a really violent civil war in the past when the LTTE was very much in action. That has reduced significantly now. The violence has ebbed, but there are periodic tensions which appear, and that is something which the Prime Minister of India has asked Mr. Rajapaksa to look into. So that, I mean, of course, violence is an outcome, but one needs to look into broader welfare measures so that these kind of outbreaks do not occur, that much. Mr. Modi also addressed the United Nations asking for a greater role for India. And I think I have told you earlier about this organization called G4. G4 stands for Group of Four, and as the name suggests, this includes four nations. What are these four nations? They are India, Brazil, Germany, and Japan. What's common between these four? There's practically nothing that is common except that this is a political group, and all four of them desire a permanent seat in the United Nations Security Council. The UNSC has five permanent members who are known as the P5 nations. They were actually among the founders of the UN, and they were the ones which won the Second World War. So that includes Britain, France, USA, or I should say UK, France, USA, Russia, and China. In addition, so at that time, Germany and Japan, they were considered the two big aggressors responsible for the Second World War. Although they were powerful economies, but they were not included. While India and Brazil were much weaker back then, but these two are highly influential nations now. So that is why the four of them together, they support each other's lobby. So India has once again reiterated its claim that India should get a powerful position in the United Nations Security Council. The Chief Minister of Delhi, Sri Arvind Kejriwal, he has assured 24-hour, which is around the clock water supply in Delhi. So a lot of fresh work is set to take place in Delhi to ensure running water. Basically, this is about. So there is a lot of work that is happening on that front. It seems. In a massive political move, the Shiromani Akali Dal, or the SAD, which has been one of the longest allies of the BJP. They have been allies since 1997. They were also among the founders of the NDA, National Democratic Alliance. Recently, it's one of its two Lok Sabha MPs who was a minister of food processing, Srimati Harsimrat Kaur Badal. She resigned, and now the SAD has completely withdrawn from the NDA, citing the uh, ordinances which were passed, the bills which now have become laws. The president has also put his signature to those bills that were passed by both the houses of the parliament. The SAD also believes that farmers' sentiments have been ignored. So what are the ramifications of this? Punjab, as it is, has three powerful factions. One is obviously the Congress, which is in power. It's extremely powerful at the state right now. There is also the Aam Aadmi Party, which emerged last time as the principal opposition and is again an upcoming young party. There is also the SAD plus BJP combined. Now that the two of them have split, will they fight? They are likely to fight the next election separately. Punjab elections not far actually, just a year and a half away, about 15 months away. Typically held in January or February of 2022. That's the expectation. Um, so will it be four factions or will SAD ally with somebody? Uh, who knows? BSP used to be a big party in Punjab at one stage because Mr. Kanshi Ram was from Punjab. They did win a lot of seats in the 1990s. So maybe this could lead to BSP's return in maybe as an ally with SAD. By return, I don't mean return to power, and maybe return to prominence. So there are lots of these permutations which could take place in Punjab. So let us just keep an eye out for those things. This is the third major ally that has quit the NDA. The TDP, or the Telugu Desam Party, quit in 2018. The Shiva Sena late last year, and now we have the SAD. There is news from the COVID-19 vaccine. So the one which is known as Covishield, which is being developed by the Oxford University and the pharma giant AstraZeneca. Also, a third partner in this is an Indian organization called the SII, or the Serum Institute of India, based in Pune and led by Mr. Adar Poonawala, who is the CEO. So they have mentioned a tentative pricing of around 80,000 crore rupees for the vaccine, which means that it will cost roughly 600 rupees per head, although it might be priced lower because the government will be buying a lot of the doses for free for the poor people. So those who will be paying for it might be paying somewhere between $2 to $3, which translates to between 140 to 225 rupees as per a broad range of the shall we say exchange rate right now. So doesn't seem too bad. It seems pretty good once we do have this thing. So this is just tentative pricing. Nothing is finalized, but we are all praying for this thing to come up pretty quick. Okay, the central government of India has advanced the procurement of paddy or rice in Punjab and Haryana. Usually, the procurement is done from the 1st of October, but this year, citing the early um, filling up of the mandis in these two states, the center will also, from the mandis onwards, carry the shall we say the paddy to the central collection. Punjab and Haryana are two states which supply a huge percentage of the national food procurement. So there is this belief that due to all these protests, farmer protests that are taking place right now, maybe that is why the government had to push this early. Also, the government says these two are unrelated. There has been a study conducted, the Delhi government, or rather the Delhi government and the municipality of Delhi conducted what is called a youth sabha. It was conducted by DDA, or the Delhi Development Authority, and this is part of what is called the MPD to 2041, or Master Plan for Delhi. So this envisages a sort of a vision for Delhi and how the city should look in 2041. Among the things which has been spoken of, so about so hundreds of youth were part of this thing, and they said that jobs is what they are looking for most: jobs, amenities, and housing. Jobs, not just the kind of white collar jobs we typically associate with, but also a lot of blue collared and skilling jobs. So they see that there's a lot of requirement for skilling and for vocational training. So there is a requirement for more number of colleges and more skill enhancement institutions that need to be developed, so that employability skills of the student may be further improved. Bollywood actress Deepika Padukone has been grilled for about 5 hours regarding the drug case. She has been interrogated by the NCB, or Narcotics and Control Bureau. And they also quizzed a few other Bollywood actresses, Sara Ali Khan and Shraddha Kapoor. Right. There are these couple of, there's a very touching story at the bottom of this first page regarding two brothers from a small hamlet in Odisha. So these two brothers, the Boden brothers, that's their surname, they have both been born blind due to a genetic disease, and they have been visually challenged since a long time, but very early on in their life, they were introduced to chess by their uncle, and now the two of them have become such experts that they are not just chess coaches in the country through the online method. They are even coaching students, potential chess players abroad, and that is something which is really inspirational for several people. So they have students from as far as New Jersey in the United States. So little bit, one of them, the younger brother, whose his name is Saundarya Kumar Pradhan. He's from the Boden town, which is in the Nopada district in Odisha. He even was a silver medalist in the 2018 men's rapid team chess, which was part of the Asian Para Games, which were held in Jakarta, Indonesia. He's visited all about half a dozen countries for his coaching stuff. He's part of a club known as the CCBW, or the Chess Club Black and White, who train aspiring young players all over the world through online methods. Right, he's actually pursuing right now a BTech program in computer science at the NIT, National Institute of Technology in Jamshedpur in Jharkhand. Mm, he the the hamlet of Boden, that is actually bordering Chhattisgarh, and this is an area which has been, this border between Odisha and Chhattisgarh has been affected by a lot of insurgency, and thus the area did not even have very good internet connectivity. They were reliant only on a 2G network until a few years back. This, however, did not prevent Mr. Saundarya Kumar Pradhan or his elder brother Prachurya Pradhan from pursuing their love. They were born with this genetic disease. I told you it's known as Leber congenital amaurosis, which is, as I said, an eye disorder which was inherited. Their father is also a teacher at the local school, while the mother is a homemaker. An interesting thing is, thing is how Saundarya Kumar, he says that he can speak both British and American accent, and this helps him get more of coaching assignments. So there's an online platform known as Indic AI, which is for training people through online methods, and that is what he uses. They have quite a few students now in New Jersey and in from Lucknow as well. Right, moving ahead to some of the local pages. Right, the Delhi Development Authority has spoken about developing 79 urban villages. I just told you about the MPD 41 or the Master Plan for Delhi 2041. So, as part of this, 79 urban villages will be developed. DDA will also hold an online meet with several traders as bodies to discuss the status of trade and business happening in the city, and what are the concerns that the traders and merchants in the city have, especially the grain merchants. So this notification was initially issued by the Ministry of Housing and Housing and Urban Affairs, but will be executed by the DDA. This urban villages which are to be developed. What are these villages? There are 31 villages in the north of Delhi, which are part of the North Corporation. I'll read out to you some of the names. It includes Mubarakpur, Put Kalan, Jonti, and also in Northwest Delhi, there is these are in Northwest Delhi. In North Delhi, you have Narela, Pansali, and Lampur. While there's Tikri Kalan in West Delhi. These are just some of the villages that will be developed. In the eastern side, we have Mustafabad, Gokulpur, Karawal Nagar, Khajuri Khas, which are in the northeast, Babarpur and Mandoli in Shahadra, and Dallupura, Gharoli, and Kondali in East Delhi. All right, all of this is part of the same. So St. Stephen's College is set to begin its interviews from today itself. The highest cutoff was, as expected, in BA Economics Honors at 99.25%, which is a staggering figure. So St. Stephen's will be starting its thing this year. Uh, Mr. Arvind Kejriwal has been speaking about, and also the environment minister in Delhi as well has been speaking about some of the techniques which could lead to stubble burning being reduced significantly in Punjab and Haryana, which will further have a positive impact on the environment in Delhi, because every winter we see stubble burning that takes place between the end of the Kharif season and the onset of the Rabi season, when crop residues are burnt by farmers in Punjab and Haryana, and the smoke reaches Delhi, choking the city. So there is this thing which was being developed by the IARI, Indian Agricultural Research Institute, which deals with a certain method of which is a biocomposer technique, by which there are some organic material which can be sprayed on this stubble, which decomposes on its own and instead forms fertilizer. This was developed by the IARI located in Pusa. So Mr. Kejriwal has actually written to the Union Environment Minister Shri Prakash Javadekar regarding this. right? In fact, Mr. Kejriwal has further added that the scientists believe that burning stubble also damages nutrients in the soil, which negatively impacts the fertility of the soil. But if this chemical is used, then not only will it lead to lesser use of fertilizer, but also increase in quality and productivity. Right, so there's a lot of positivity, a lot of hope, which is in this thing. Maybe this year people in Delhi NCR will suffer less from pollution. Sticking to pollution, there is this, pollution is a major thing in Delhi now, so all the authorities taking utmost care for it. So there is the DPCC, which was constituted by the Supreme Court itself. It is the Delhi Pollution Control Committee. They have now fined the CPWD, or the Central Public Works Department, for over 5 lakh rupees for flouting environment control norms. This is to do with a certain patch of construction near central Delhi around the CGO complex. It relates to offices of the CRPF, where um, several cement units were used which were not processing the dust. Basically, a lot of the dust was being released indiscriminately. So overall 31 cement units, including four of the largest construction sites in the city of Delhi, they have been part of this thing. Overall 13 teams were formed by the DPCC to look into any illegal dumping of waste. So out of this, couple of have been identified. So total 5 lakh rupee fine. In a landmark case by the High Court of Delhi, the High Court of Mumbai in Maharashtra, they have one of the things they mentioned is that the role of housewife is least appreciated nowadays. Of course, we use the term homemaker, so that is least appreciated, and so certain allocation should be made. They've suggested, they've recommended, although nothing is final. So a certain fiscal uh, amount must be set aside for this thing. When I started watching these programs on the OTT platforms, or the on over-the-top platforms, I remember it all started this year lockdown. In the month of March. It was not because of the lockdown. It's just coincidentally that was around the time that I got interested in these OTT platforms. I know I'm sounding very old that I got into this act so late, but this is the truth. So I started with Sacred Games. I saw both the seasons. The third series which I saw, second you can say, if you consider both the seasons of Sacred Games as one. Uh, so the second one which I started was actually Jam Tara. I don't know how many of you have seen this web series. This is on Netflix, Jam Tara, and how many of you have seen Jam Tara? Do let me know, because there's something I can see somebody else is also watching this session. So, has anybody seen this show called Jamtara? Because there's something I wish to discuss regarding that with you guys. Season of Sacred Games was one. So the second one which I started was actually Jamtara. I don't know how many of you have seen this. Do let me know, because there's something closely related to Jamtara which I want to discuss with you guys. Right, I'm assuming some of you may have written something on this. Let me just check. Okay, I can't see any comment as yet on Jamtara. So basically, Jamtara is it's a town in Jharkhand, and Jharkhand has become infamous. Infamous is when you're famous for the wrong reasons. Become famous for something called phishing. I don't know. I think most of you would have heard of this term. I'll just write this term once again. Not the phishing machli wala, but something with a Phishing. Phishing. So I'm sure many of you may have heard of it. This is basically an illicit method to extract money online. Through the method, for example, I get a call and somebody asks me to declare my a certain OTP, certain give figures on my CVV number. So a lot of the lesser educated people, older people who are less tech savvy, they have been fooled. Probably hundreds and crores of worth all over the country. Several cases have taken place. So one more case, again, incidentally from the state of Jharkhand, did take place, but that has been busted by the police of Maharashtra. So Navi Mumbai Police's cyber cell was able to track that, and they have nabbed the key assailants in this case. This is not a local news. This is actually something much bigger. So do think of these money nabbing incidents. The Mumbai University had decided to conduct offline exams from the 1st of October. This is something where a plea was filed in the High Court of Maharashtra against this, stating that exams should be stopped now so that social distancing norms can be maintained. The High Court of Mumbai, however, has refused to comply. They say they will not be interfering in the internal decisions of the Mumbai University. The High Court The High Court of Maharashtra has also made another important observation. They have observed that under the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956, they have said that prostitution is not a criminal offense. Adults have a right to choose their profession. So this is rather interesting an observation by the High Court. 2020 also marks exactly 100 years since the discovery of Mohenjo-daro and Harappa. It is interesting that Indian civilization is so old, roughly 4,500 years old, but until barely 100 years back, we had no memory of the oldest civilization in India. So the Indus Valley civilization was actually discovered for the modern audiences about 100 years back by a couple of British archaeologists. Partly it was accidental, partly it was intentional, and there were two sites which were actually discovered together: Harappa, which lies in the on the Pakistani side of Punjab, while Mohenjo-daro is in Sindh. So these two, because this year completes a centenary, so a lot of celebrations are to take place, mostly intellectual celebrations. So we'll be having a lecture series to mark centenary of this discovery. Experts working on archaeological projects will be sharing insights, and so the India Studies Center Trust will work in collaboration with the Directorate of Archaeology and Museums in Maharashtra to conduct a 10-day online lecture series from the 5th of October. The head of the School of Archaeology, Dr. Kurush Dalal, he has said that this discovery has brought in the focus of the world to Indian culture. So experts from different historical times in India will be involved in this to study the history of India. Right. In fact, this is not a pure historical discovery, this Indus Valley civilization. It requires the collaboration of scientists and experts from different fields, which is why this particular India Study Center Trust is, you know, entrusted with the idea of looking into further details, because this academic institution also deals, besides archaeology, also deals with geology and biodiversity. Very important to understand what happened thousands of years back, because there is a lot of information one can find in the rock, the soil, below the earth's below the immediate surface. So that is why we require scientists who can do for example, carbon dating and several other things. Right, moving on to the north from the west, I'm moving on to the north. Rajasthan state has found a new policy which will focus on rural tourism, and I personally think this is going to work tremendously, especially because of the location of parts of Rajasthan near Delhi and Gurugram, because these are massive cities where people are living in urban enclosures all the time. So people do require going out, and these rural tourism or farm tourism, I personally feel can work very well. I was on the verge of going for farm tourism a couple of years back. The idea was eventually dropped. I read a really exciting article on Outlook Traveler magazine, which really inspired me. But just to take this on, by the way, from the next month, from the month of October, I'll be starting with a new series, which will be known as the book review series. So I'll also be reviewing lots of books with you guys. Okay, so yeah, so yesterday was actually the World Tourism Day as declared by the UNWTO, or the United Nations World Tourism Organization, and its entire theme this year is based around sustainable tourism, which focuses on rural areas, because whenever tourism becomes unsustainable, it cannot last for many years, and if it ends up polluting the environment, it is going to create further trouble, because obviously nobody wants to visit a place which is dirty or where the natural environment has been badly affected. Tourism sector, of course, one of the worst hit, and that is why Mr. Alok Gupta, who's the principal secretary for tourism in the state, he and his team is trying hard to somehow enable tourism to get back on track. The state share in GST to hotels and restaurants has also been changed. Also, the renewal of bar licenses has been easier, while motor vehicle tax has been relaxed for vehicles carrying more than 22% capacity. Sticking with North India, Punjab, the farmers in Punjab have further extended their protest of what is called the Rail Roko. 25th September was the All India strike. Now, till 29th of September, they will be conducting what is called the Rail Roko. It was initially 24th to 26th. Now it will go further. So there's a picture of farmers blocking the rail track in Patiala. That's why all trains in the state of Punjab have now been suspended. There are several rail tracks which have been mentioned, such as Mansa, Barnala, Nabha, which is in Patiala, Chhajil, which is in Sangrur, Rampuda in Batinda, Ajitwal in Moga, Kotkapura in Faridkot, Godhar Baha in Muksar, and Jalalabad, which is in Fazilka district. So these are all under the news. Also, demonstrations were held in Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal, and of course, Haryana, which has been in the news for a while now. Kerala is once again seeing a massive rise in cases of COVID 19. There were more than 7,000 cases recorded on Saturday. There is also heavy rain in Telangana as well as parts of Andhra Pradesh. So there is fear of flooding in these two states. There is a particular dam known as the Himayat Sagar. This is getting inundated, so that could lead to release of excess waters. Sticking to South India, in Karnataka, the state assembly has passed two farm bills in the state assembly. The one was the Karnataka Land Reforms Amendment Bill 2020. This enables non-agricultural, so non-farmers to purchase farmland. The other is the Karnataka Agricultural Produce Marketing Regulation and Development Bill 2020, which basically permits farmers to sell outside the APMCs, which till now have been a monopoly. So this is in line with actually the farm laws which have been passed at the center as well. The Congress has been opposed to both these bills. The JDS, which is also an opposition party, remember Karnataka is now ruled by the BJP. It was, Congress was in power for 5 years, 2013 to 18, and then for about 18 odd months, the Congress and the JDS was together in an alliance, and now the BJP is in power on its own. So Congress and JDS both now the opposition. Congress has opposed both the bills. The JDS has opposed the second while supporting the first one, which is the Karnataka Land Reforms Amendment Bill. Right. Saturday was also a day where there was a massive national rejig of the party organization of the Bharatiya Janata Party. BJP, of course, massively in power at the center right now and in several states as well. So, a couple of new general secretaries have been appointed. One is Sri Tejasvi Surya. You also have Mr. Dilip Saikia, Mr. C.T. Ravi, and Mr. D. Purandeshwari. A couple of national secretaries have been appointed. Some have been dropped as well, leading name being Mr. Ram Madhav. They have also retained their media in charges. Mr. Amit Malviya remains a social media in charge, while Mr. Anil Baluni remains the overall media in charge, media cell in charge. The poll going states, the states which will have elections, have been dealt particularly interestingly. Not much for Tamil Nadu, but West Bengal has seen major appointments with Mukul Roy, who was formerly at the Trinamool Congress. He has been appointed as the vice president, which means he will call the shots in the West Bengal elections. In Bihar, the opposition or the Mahagathbandhan is striking out its, seat sharing plans. So right now, the RJD looks likely to fight on 140 seats, while the Congress, which was initially demanding 90 seats, might fight contest over 70 seats. That leaves less than 30, a bit more than 30 seats for the others, the smaller parties. So it seems that about 2 dozen seats, which is around 24 seats, will be contested by the three left parties, CPI, CPIM, and CPIML. CPIM probably the least. CPI, in reinvigorated by the entry of Kanhaiya Kumar, could contest a few more. CPIML is among the three the most powerful in Bihar. They had won 3 seats last time as well. So these three will be contesting 24 seats overall. The remaining seats, which is less than 10, will be allotted to VIP, the Vikashshil Insan Party, led by a former set decorator in Bollywood, Shri Mukesh Sahni. That leaves one important party, RLSP, the Rashtriya Lok Samata Party, which was earlier part of the NDU, then joined the Mahagathbandhan, but now once again it finds itself in a limbo. This is similar to HUM, Hindustan Awam Morcha, which has joined the NDA once again. So the RLSP, the Congress is very keen that the RLSP remains with the Mahagathbandhan, but there are these seat-sharing disagreements with the RJD also regarding the chief ministerial face. There is some sort of disagreement between the RJD and the RLSP. Right, fair enough. Now, the last 6 months, as you know, there haven't been many inbound flights to India, only chartered flights and some with permission. Now, some more flights will be restarted, especially for Tibetans who want return visas. So, Tibetans, as you know, many Tibetans left Tibet in the 1960s and later on as well to escape Chinese state persecution. They have lived as refugees in India for the last half a century, more than that. Many of them have migrated to Western countries or other countries as well. But now, all those who have return visas, they can re enter India. That has been announced by the Ministry of Home Affairs. Okay, there's a body called INS, very important for us because we are reading the newspaper. It is the Indian Newspaper Society. That society has already announced its new head. That is going to be Shri L. Adimulam, who has been elected. He replaces Mr. Shailesh Gupta of the Midday, who was until now the head. Mr. Adimulam, the new head, he heads the health and the antiseptic publication. There were a couple of other challenges as well. Their names have also been mentioned, and also some of the new office holders, they have been mentioned as well. A very important economist passed away on Saturday. Her name is Ishar Judge Aluwalia. She was the wife of Mr. Montek Singh Aluwalia. Both husband and wife were among the leading economists of India. And they were among the major people who influenced Indian economic thought over the last 3 decades, including during the liberalization in the early 90s up to several moments lately as well. Uh, Miss Ishar Judge Aluwalia, she was heading this organization called ICRIER, which is the Indian Council for Research on International Economic Relations. Over a period of 15 years that she headed the organization, she developed the organization into the leading economics think tank in India, an organization which is, sort of considered its efforts, its research considered absolutely ideal for all policymakers. All these policymakers have been following their tenets. Now, there's a really interesting article which I think is really important for all of us. I don't know if you've heard of a certain weed. You know what are weeds, right? Weeds are unwanted plants, plants which grow anywhere. They take away the water resources. They compete with existing plants which are useful for us, and they cannot even be eaten by animals. So that is why they are harmful in every way. Now, one particular weed I would like to mention is lantana, which is a weed of Australian origin. It is an invasive species. Invasive species is something which is not originally from your place. It is originally from another continent, another region. It has invaded and it has become so powerful. For whatever reason, the conditions in your country, your region are so good for that they end up killing everybody else. It competes for water the others can't compete, and that leads to loss of biodiversity. Leads to all kinds of problems basically. So lantana has been the scourge of several Indian forests. Yeah. How did it enter India? Not through any invasive species. They usually come in accidentally, so that's how it came. And कहीं पे भी कोई seed अटक गया, कोई लीफ आ गया, और फिर गलती से प्लांट हो गया, एंड फिर इट केप्ट ऑन राइजिंग एंड राइजिंग because of a lot of trade. So Lantana restoration, Lantana Katke land restoration, very important. The government of Rajasthan has taken this on a war footing. So about 500 saplings have been planted in the cleared pockets in what is called the Sajjangarh Wildlife Sanctuary. This is in the Udaipur district. This small sanctuary is in the southern Aravalli, spread over more than 5 square kilometers. So not very big, but pura Lantana se cover ho gaya. Even animals had stopped. The natural growth of grass and other shrubs had stopped, and herbivores had also stopped getting sufficient forage. So that led to the prey base for carnivores also reducing. So everything is connected basically. So the forest officials, police personnel, wildlife lovers, and representatives of voluntary groups as well as local villagers, they all got in together for this initiative. So Lantana had first been introduced in 1807. So there's a society called Tourism and Wildlife Society of India, whose honorary secretary, Shri Harshvardhan, he has spoken about how Lantana has become so invasive. It has actually taken over several even Project Tiger areas. I had told you about S.P. Balasubramaniam, the legendary singer from South India who passed away on Saturday. So he was laid with state honors on Sunday in his home state of Tamil Nadu. And another very famous singer, Shri K.J. Yesudas, he says, "It's like I have lost a brother." Congress interim president Sonia Gandhi, even she has hailed Mr. Balasubramaniam as a singing moon, as a legend for this nation. There have been tributes pouring in from all other corners as well. The Andhra Pradesh government had opposed the one of the terms on the NEP, or the new educational policy, regarding the early rollout of mother tongue as medium of instruction. Now the center, however, the Supreme Court has ruled that they will have to soon work this out. This is not something which can be avoided because it's part of the central policy. Gujarat will not see Garba this year in order to maintain social distancing, because Garba, of course, very key important part of Gujarati culture. That obviously this it requires a lot of touching and a lot of close interaction that can't take place now due to the social distancing norms. So it will not be held. It has been announced by the local government of the state. We've been speaking about COVID-19 vaccine, but it seems in Odisha, a man tried to sell fake COVID-19 vaccines. He has been arrested for this thing. In Mumbai, a woman who had some problems, she has got a new pair of hands due to a certain very complex operation. So this was facilitated from a man from Chennai. So this is a rare case of a bilateral hand transplant. In Meghalaya, tragically, 12 people have died due to flash floods and resulting landslide. This is predominantly in the East Khasi Hills. In neighboring West Bengal, the cinema halls will restart from 1st of October. This has been announced by the Chief Minister, Ms. Mamata Banerjee. She has said that to return to normalcy, jatras, plays, OATs, cinemas, and all musical dance recital shall be allowed to function with 50 participants or less from 1st October. Of course, this is subject to the physical distancing as well as masking protocols. Moving on to the next page. So one of the major issues in the world of jurisprudence in USA has been about successor to Miss Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who's considered one of the great feminist activists in the last century. She passed away recently at the age of 87, so her replacement has to be selected. One of Ginsburg's plea was that her successor should not be decided in haste, but it should be only after the elections this year, the presidential elections. However, that may not be followed, although the opposition, which is the Democratic Party, they want that herd beliefs be maintained. But the Republicans or the Donald Trump government does not seem to agree. They have already nominated a judge. Her name is Amy Coney Barrett for the job. And Barrett is from a very different background. She's a conservative Catholic who has uh, uh, who has actually been fighting against, um, shall we say, contraception and against abortion for years. This is religious conservatives in the USA. They have always believed that abortion is a wrong thing. So she has been among those. So complete opposite in her political philosophy to Miss Ginsburg, while the Republican Party is also considered on the conservative side on the US politics. I'll just get some water for myself. Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan had recently spoken about India's government not being, so certain he had criticized the Indian government. However, India has rebuffed, stating that this is an unnecessary rant, incessant rant which Imran Khan gave, and it wasn't needed at this stage. The World Health Organization, now with almost a million deaths, we are nearing the million mark in terms of deaths. The World Health Organization warns that about 2 million deaths is possible due to the virus, and they don't see the virus dissipating before 2022. Australia's Prime Minister, Mr. Scott Morrison, however, has appealed to the international community, stating that whichever country develops the first reliable vaccine should easily share it with the others, because this is a total humanitarian problem and not something which affects only one country or one community. There was an attack in Nigeria which killed 30 people. It was an envoy. It was a truck envoy attack. Um, in Lebanon, the PM designate, or somebody who's going to be the next PM, Mr. Mustafa Adib, he has resigned from his post, which is of being the next PM. He belongs to, he's a Sunni Muslim, so as per the concessional democracy which Lebanon has, and about which I had spoken to you earlier in one of the earlier classes, the Prime Minister's post is always reserved for a Sunni Muslim, while the Speaker of the House has to be a Shia and the President has to be a Maronite Christian. Uh, he, however, has declined, although he supports the work of the French President, Mr. Emmanuel Macron, because Macron had a sort of mediated a sort of a peace within Lebanon. France, being a former colonial power of Lebanon, does have some interest and does want peace in Lebanon. Mr. Adib, does hail Macron's work and he wants more intervention from France, but he does not want to himself continue. The United Kingdom Prime Minister, Mr. Boris Johnson, has also asked for global unity against this pandemic right now. Elections will also take place in this South American country of Bolivia. I don't know if you guys have heard of this country. Have you guys heard of this country? Please let me know. It is named after Simon Bolivar, who was a freedom fighter in South America, not just for one nation. He actually fought for the independence of several countries, which all gained independence fairly simultaneously from Spanish rule. Bolivia is on the western side of South America on the Andes Mountains. In fact, its capital is the world's highest capital in terms of altitude, La Paz. It has two capitals, La Paz and Sucre. La Paz is one of them. So Bolivia has long been dominated, like most South American countries, dominated by the white community who are originally from Europe, while he himself belongs to the Guarani community, or is it, let me just see which. Aymara community. Guaranis are another. He belongs to the. There's a person called Enzo Morales, Evo Morales. He belongs to the Aymari community. They are the minorities, but they are the indigenous, the original residents of Bolivia. He became the first president of the country from the indigenous populations. And in the last 15 odd years of being in power, he has nationalized a lot of things, changed a lot of aspects of the culture. However, he was replaced because the last election results were sort of disputed. So, on a temporary basis, Ms. Jeanine Inez has been in power. She has even accused Argentina of harboring him because Mr. Morales is in Argentina right now. So they have criticized Argentina for inciting trouble in the region. By the way, Argentina has long been quite unpopular in South America. I'll tell you why a bit later. Uh, so there is a party which he founded, Mr. Morales, the MAS, or the Movement for Socialism. However, the next election they are predicted to win power once again because Morales is such a powerful figure. Why has Argentina been unpopular with South America? Because Argentina is the most white nation in terms of its ethnicity. More than 90% people of Argentina are whites, while if you look at the other countries, they have a fair sprinkling of several ethnicities. Even Uruguay, which is closest to Argentina, does have a slightly larger non-white population. So, because of the white population and the fact that Argentina was actually a very rich country till the 1920s, the Great Depression had a lasting effect on Argentina. But till the 1920s, it was such a rich country. So it continued being, even now, it is a wealthier country in terms of per capita income than every other country in Latin America. So there has always been a sort of a historical superiority complex, or shall we say, Argentina being considered superior. So that's why the others have historically not had a fond outlook towards Argentina. And of course, their football success does not help. The fact that Argentina so dominated South American football for long, now they aren't. Last 25 odd years, they haven't. Even Brazil has won fewer Copa Americas than Argentina. Within South America, Argentina has been more dominant than Brazil, even. Anyway, moving on further. India is planning a $4.6 billion spur for producing electronic batteries. So EVs, as they are known as, or electronic vehicles, batteries for them. So India is expected to slash its oil bill imports by up to $40 billion by 2030, because China has also reaffirmed its idea of becoming, zero carbon emitter by 2060. So there's a lot of pressure on the second and third big polluters, USA and India. So India is also planning to do certain things. Last year, if you see, only 3,400 electric cars were sold, compared to 1.7, 3,400. That's it, compared to a total market of 1.7 million conventional passenger cars. So this, of course, is a very small figure, but the government is looking to. There is a draft proposal which has been sent by the Niti Aayog, looking at ways to solve this problem. The CEO of PolicyBazaar.com, Mr. Sarveer Singh, PolicyBazaar.com, as you know, is an online platform for buying several policies. It's a bit like the Unacademy of the insurance sector. So its head, Mr. Singh, says that life and health insurance has seen a massive surge during the pandemic because people have all realized that health is wealth, and if you do not have the right health, the things could really backfire, as we've seen the last several months. So that has seen this new, you know, emergence. Further on in the business page, I'm sure you've all heard of Woodlands, famous shoe brand from India. Woodlands has already expanded to a few other countries such as Canada and South Africa. But now, Mr. Harkirat Singh, who's the managing director of the Aero Club, which is the owner of the Woodlands brand, they have said that the Woodlands brand will be expanded to several more countries this year. This is a time of global economic slowdown, so perfect time to enter new markets as per Woodlands, because the price of entry is actually lower now. I've been speaking to you guys also about several IPOs that have come up in the last couple of weeks or the last month or so. After quite a few months of economic slowdown, but IPOs are coming up. One of the major IPOs has that been by an IT company called Happiest Minds Technologies. Its shares were sold at a premium of 123% over the issue price of 166 rupees. The former Wipro executive and also co-founder of Mindtree, Mr. Ashok Soota, who has founded this organization, has a lot of hopes out of this. And he also says that IT sector will be one which will propel India towards economic recovery next year. The expectation is that there will be an 8 to 10% growth in IT sector in the next financial year, which is 2021 to 22. So starting a new company at the age of 77, never an easy thing, but he has shared an entire interview on what all he envisages for the upcoming period. As I told you, economic slowdown is there. It's real now, and India is no exception. And I've been telling you the last couple of days about the different uh, organizations and what kind of an economic growth or the lack of it that organizations are predicting from India. Standard and Poor, one of the world's leading credit rating agencies, they have been slashing India's credit worthiness for some time. They have reiterated that India's long-term rating, however, remains stable. It is only the short and medium term which has been downgraded, but long-term does remain stable. There is an analysis on the recent farm bills. So, among who are the winners and who are the losers, private companies could end up as the winners. The Arhityas or the middlemen in these various mandis or the APMCs, they could end up losing out in this uh, case. There is also a detailed analysis of the change in the labor laws. Several labor laws have also been amended now. There is a study which has been presented which shows that airplanes might not be safe anymore, although airlines have to some extent restarted. But it says that in-flight transmission of coronavirus through droplet transmission can be massive. So aviation could still be avoided. So one of the flights recently from London saw 15 people being infected because of this particular issue. The John Hopkins medical researchers have brought out another publication on how fatigue works and how mental fatigue affects people. There is a comet which has been discovered. It has its own far ultraviolet aurora. The comet has been named as Churyumov-Gerasimenko, named after a famous Soviet cosmologist. There is also an article with, there's an interview actually with Dr. Gagandeep Kang, who's a professor of microbiology at the CMC in Vellore. She explains about human trials and how it will design better treatments and vaccines, not just for COVID-19, but for several other diseases as well. In a really encouraging news from Madhya Pradesh, five more frogs or amphibians have been identified and included in the fauna list of Madhya Pradesh. These frogs were not known earlier, although they were found in Gujarat and Maharashtra. They were not known to be present in Madhya Pradesh. So, a couple of researchers from the WII, or Wildlife Institute of India in Dehradun, they did this study in the Panna National Park, which is in central India, and they brought out these five amphibians. So this has been explained by Dr. Abhijit Das from the WII, who's the author of a paper published in Zoo Taxa, which is a famous journal on wildlife in India. So one of them is the dwarf toad, which is also found in peninsular India. There's the Odisha paddy frog, which, as the name suggests, is uh, primarily found in eastern India around paddy fields or rice fields. There's also the wrinkled cricket frog, earlier observed in Karnataka. There's Pierre's cricket frog, which is seen in Nepal, Bhutan, and in Assam. Also, the western burrowing frog, uska picture diya bhi hua hai. This was earlier seen in western India. So they will definitely add to Madhya Pradesh, already one of the most famous states in India when it comes to wildlife. This is further going to cement its position there. There is also some really encouraging news from Kerala. The state of Kerala has seen a lot of devastation in the recent years due to flooding, but now a new technology has been discovered under what is known as the Copernicus program. So Copernicus program wanted to use cloud computing to better understand the physical settings of the state, so that much can be worked out around this. So there is this paper which was published on PLOS One, which is again an academic journal, PLOSONE, and there is a 94% accuracy of this new technology, which is the SAR. SAR stands for Signature Aperture Radar. So future floods can also be predicted, and that will help in sending out an early warning system to the people who could be badly affected. I'll just switch off the AC for a while. It's getting really cold. You guys see my code till then. You can use this code in case you wish to enroll, which I'm sure you want to enroll anyway. Right. Do make use of that codes whenever you are enrolling. I can see some more students have joined in. Please, it'll be great if you can message. Great to connect. Right, there's an article on one of the one of the most senior policemen in Bihar. He was the DGP, Director General of Police, Mr. Gupteshwar Pandey, who has recently quit the police force. He's going to join politics. He's joined the JDU, or the Janata Dal United, which is headed by Shri Nitish Kumar, and will be contesting in the upcoming assembly elections in the state. There's also an article and analysis on the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, or the People's Party. This is a party for the Rajapaksas, very new party, but how the Rajapaksas have now become complete powerful, all powerful in Sri Lanka. Gotabaya Rajapaksa is the president, while Mahinda Rajapaksa, his brother, is the prime minister. Finally, before I hit my favorite section, which is sports, I'll also do a bit of the Times of India, because a couple of really important stories to discuss from the Times of India, including on the extremely critical farm bills. But for now, there's an article on Gilgit Baltistan. I don't know if you're aware of this place. So Gilgit Baltistan is a disputed territory between India and Pakistan. This part of the world, extremely remote, was even shown in one of the Hollywood movies, Vertical Limit, and it has the world's second highest mountain peak, or K2, also known as Godwin Austen. Now, Gilgit-Baltistan was okay. So POK or Pak occupied Kashmir. This is not part of POK, right? POK is legally accepted. The LOC is legally accepted between India and Pakistan, but Gilgit-Baltistan is disputed between the two sides, and Pakistan now wants to make Gilgit-Baltistan a full-fledged state of Pakistan, in addition to Punjab, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Sindh, and Balochistan. This will be the fifth full-fledged state. The people of Gilgit-Baltistan, they have been sort of caught in the wire between the two sides. Extremely remote region, very cold, amazingly beautiful, and also home to several remote languages in the world, because the people and the culture they follow is a world apart from the other languages which are followed nearby. So these people, they sort of, they've not seen any development because of the constant dispute between the two countries. So they are hopeful that this state status might bring them some benefits. However, this might also be illegal from the side of Pakistan, because as I said, it's disputed and India claims this territory. So in fact, they're having lots of dams and bunds which have been built here right from the time of the Balti king. His name was Ali Sher Khan Anchan, who ruled for 44 years between 1580 to 1624. Right, there's much of that history is mentioned here. Um, It was separated from Azad Kashmir in 1948, April 28th. In 1963, 2nd March, Pakistan gave away a certain part of this land, more than 5,000 square kilometers, to China in spite of local protests. When Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was the Prime Minister of Pakistan, the name of the region was changed to FATA, or Federally Administered Northern Areas, FANA, FANA. FATA is tribal areas, that's different. So now, of course, it is set to become Pakistan's fifth state. So, rather disputed territory. Lots of countries have their interests, even China, Afghanistan, all of them have. Anyway, moving further into it, now the sports pages. Finally, the Kolkata Knight Riders won their first game, defeating the Sunrisers Hyderabad. I think it was an amazing game. Varun Chakravarti bowled extremely well, picking up just one wicket, but overall restricting. Pat Cummins again picked up a wicket, and after the terrible first game where he conceded about 50 runs in 3 overs, he conceded only 19 in 4 overs, also picking up a wicket. So it's good to see such a good player coming back into it. For KKR's batting, Shubman Gill scored an unbeaten 70, while Owen Morgan also batted on 42 right till the end. Yesterday also saw a match between the Rajasthan Royals and the Kings 11 Punjab. I'll talk about it when I do today's session. This was a game in Sharjah. Sharjah is generally considered more friendly towards sixes. The ground is a bit smaller, so games are more high scoring than in Abu Dhabi and Dubai. The stadium capacity is more than Dubai, but the dimensions of the ground are smaller. Stadium capacity of Sharjah, Abu Dhabi roughly similar. Dubai is a bit smaller. Uh, Manchester United pulled off a last moment controversial victory against Brighton and Hove Albion. Brighton dominated most of the game. In fact, they hit the woodwork several times. The woodwork came to our rescue several times. United still got a last minute penalty to win the game 3 goals to 2. In fact, they were leading 2-1 just with minutes remaining. I think in injury time, Brighton scored an equalizer, which was deserved, no doubt. But United got a highly controversial penalty right in the last moment. So Bruno Fernandes, as usual, stepped up and scored a goal. Lots of penalties being awarded this season. Marcus Rashford scored a beautiful goal before that for United. Uh, right, Crystal Palace, meanwhile, lost at home to Everton, for whom Dominic Calvert-Lewin scored a lot of goals last season. He's continuing the good work, scored a goal again. Everton has won all 3 matches. Richarlison converted a penalty, the Brazilian striker. Sticking with football, Alaves drew with Getafe in Spain. Valencia drew with Huesca in Italy. Torino, thanks to 2 goals from Italian, well-built player Andre Belotti. He's like a giant. So Andre Belotti scored 2 goals, but they still lost to Atalanta. Atalanta is everybody's second team nowadays. They're heroics in the Champions League last year, a tiny club, and also from a region which was hit very badly in COVID-19 crisis. Atalanta scored 4 goals to win this away game. Two of those goals were scored by Dutch players Hans Hatteboer and Martin de Roon. In the Bundesliga Champions League qualifiers, Borussia Mönchengladbach could only draw with Union Berlin thanks to a goal by Marcus Thuram. Bayer Leverkusen also could only draw with RB Leipzig. Both were among the best teams. Emil Forsberg, the Swedish playmaker, scored for Leipzig, while Karim Demirbay scored for Leverkusen. Likewise, in the other game, Stuttgart, newly promoted Stuttgart, traditional giants, they defeated Mainz 4-1. Um, while Augsburg defeated Borussia Dortmund 2-0. This was a big result. Arminia Bielefeld defeated Cologne. Hertha Berlin lost at home to Eintracht Frankfurt. That was a big game, though. In fact, all the four goals in that game were scored by Frankfurt players, because even Berlin's only goal was an own goal by the Austrian defender Martin Hinteregger. The likes of Adrian Silva, Sebastian Roda, and Bas Dost scored one goal each for Hertha Berlin. Michael Schumacher, legendary Formula One rider, his son has also entered. He's, by the way, in coma now, Michael Schumacher, thanks to a terrible skiing accident a couple of years back. His son, Mick Schumacher, has stopped one of the lower level qualifiers. So I think it is in the blood. He's also getting stronger. The Indian Super League, which is the premier football tournament in India, is set to restart. The Ministry of External Affairs has given permission to some of the foreign players to arrive. So, eight Brazilians and one player from Fiji, they are set to get. They have got permission. They will be arriving. The Dutch coach Ronald Koeman, recently appointed as the manager of Barcelona, he has lauded Lionel Messi's work during training, and he wants everyone to emulate that. Um, Lewis Hamilton, meanwhile, has taken pole position in the Russian Grand Prix, which is being held in Sochi. Right, that's pretty much it from the sports pages. I'll move quickly to the Times of India. Couple of important stories from there. I don't want to take too much of your time, so don't worry. Just a couple of things here. Um, So, you may have heard of Miss Twinkle Khanna, who was an actress in the late 90s. She's the daughter of Dimple Kapadia, a legendary actress. Twinkle Khanna may not have been a very successful actress, but she's been a very successful writer, especially newspaper columnist for quite some time. So, she has written an article on how to pick up books. You know, it's like whenever you visit a bookstore, she says she's always in a trouble because she wants to buy every book. She's mentioned a couple of books which she definitely wants. People should buy. One of them is by a recent Booker Prize winner, Mr. Bernardine Evaristo. A couple of other books. She's also mentioned City of Gins by William Dalrymple, which is the only book among these which I have read. So yes, do go ahead. I'll take a class on reading, don't worry. There is also this article on hashtags in Bollywood and how they are evolving right now. But there's one very important article which I want to talk to you about, which is about the Atal Tunnel, the all-weather Atal Tunnel, which is set to be inaugurated on 3rd of October. This, by the way, is going to be a milestone for construction in India. The Atal Tunnel is going to link Lahore in Himachal Pradesh with Leh in Ladakh. These two are both remote regions, and they have been cut off not just from each other but from the rest of the country for a long time. There are roads available, but they do not last the winters, for instance. But now this Atal Tunnel is set to connect them together, and they are. This is all weather, so communication can now take place the whole year. This has been built by the BRO, or Border Roads Organization. There are lots of things of strategic importance. So please don't take it just as a road, but the road and communication, this leads to many other benefits trickling into the local people. Supplies of things such as school books or even sanitary pads, and of course, eventually tourism. Now, generally, tourism is affected, but once tourism starts, and imagine a road trip from Lahore Spiti to Ladakh, that's going to be, incredibly exciting. So, it's the world's highest highway tunnel at 10,000 feet above sea level, 10,040 feet. It took 10 years to build at a cost of 3,200 crore rupees. The expected daily traffic right now is around 3,000 cars and 1,500 trucks per day. The maximum vehicular speed is 80 kilometers per hour. right? So this will be really exciting. I would love to be part of, a drive very soon. Long been road trips. The Rashtriya Lok Samata Party, led by Shri Upendra Kushwaha, I was telling you earlier, they are in talks with the BJP regarding some seat sharing arrangements. If the two of them can come together, um, India's 7-day average has actually come down in terms of number of COVID-19 cases. We were expecting to reach 100,000 cases a day, but we've come down to something around 85,000 per day. So that's definitely encouraging in spite of testing going on at a good pace. So per capita fatality is not that bad. And in fact, the NPPA, which is the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, they have capped the price of medical oxygen so that there is no exploitation of the patients and their families. So that has taken place. The railway stations of India are set for a revamp. Lots of these stations will go through infrastructural developments. So 24 companies have already shown their interest. That includes massive companies such as Tata Projects, Adani Group, GMR Group, Anchorage Infrastructure, I Squared Capital, also the French company SNCF. They have shown interest in New Delhi and Mumbai CST redevelopment. In a study on science and cities with scientific abilities, Beijing has been declared as the world's #1 city in terms of scientific caliber. This is a list which has been brought out by a magazine called Nature. The only two Indian cities on this list are Bengaluru and Kolkata. So congratulations to these two states for keeping up the scientific temper. By the way, scientific temper is mentioned in our Constitution of India as one of the DPSPs, Directive Principles of State Policy, something which should be encouraged, although it is not something which has to be by law. DPSPs are sort of guidelines, they don't have to be followed. So Bengaluru's rank has come down from 93 to 97. Still, it remains in the top 100. Kolkata has jumped from 122 to 99. That is an incredible jump. Delhi NCR though and Mumbai though have gone down quite badly. So Beijing is #1 in the world, as I told you, followed by New York City, Boston, San Francisco, and Shanghai. So the top five dominated by two countries: first and fifth from China, second, third, and fourth from USA. There's this funny article about how we are forgetting the day of the week. I think thanks to my newspaper articles, you still know that today is Monday, yesterday was Sunday, but generally people are forgetting thanks to work from home and the you know the pandemic. The T2 terminal of the Indira Gandhi International Airport will resume from the 1st of October. I was just talking to you about tourism in Rajasthan earlier today, and I just now spoke about Ladakh and Himachal. So, Uttarakhand is also set to resume a very important tourism aspect of the state, which is river rafting. You know, Rishikesh very famous for river rafting. So, after 6 months, river rafting on the Ganga River will restart. Once again, I just can't wait to get my hands on there. I'll just discuss with you quickly the editorial of Saturday before I wrap up the day. I know today's session has been a bit long for you guys, but I do hope it has been massively informational. I'll just take a brief bio break. Give me a moment and I'll be back. Yeah, thank you for the patience shown. Okay, finally, on the editorial page, there is one article which is an eye opener. That is by one of the most famous economists in this country, economic writers. I won't say economist, economic writers. So his name is Swaminatha Ankalesari Iyer. He has spoken about how these new farm laws are set to usher in massive reform, and it will be very good for farmers. He has actually given an example of how it would be for people like you and me if we are forced to work in only a particular geography of the country, that we can't move out of that geography, and that we can only work, and we also need to pay a certain additional state tax just for working in that place, just for being allowed to work. Farmers have been facing this for decades since independence, and they can only sell in one particular market within their district, and this is actually, made farming a very unattractive career option. In fact, one of the studies done recently showed that 42%, which is two-fifths of existing farmers, do not wish to continue farming. They want to leave farming. For me. And in fact, a lot of farmers, because of these stranglehold which has been by the APMCs, they stopped producing paddy or wheat because these were the main procurement material by the FCR, Food Corporation of India. So they actually resorted instead to fruits and vegetables. But the problem with fruits and vegetables is that they are perishable. They destroy quickly, and once these are produced, there is even lower bargaining power which farmers have. But now farmers can technically sell anywhere. He's also given an example from the European Union, where such a law was there earlier. It led to massive losses for the EU, so they had to sell at a much lower price to Russia and the former Soviet Union when there was no EU, but there were lots of European countries, of course. Now things have improved massively in Europe, in the European Union. Likewise, in several Indian states, in Telangana, for example, there is a Raitu Bandhu scheme. There is also the PM Kisan Yojana from the center, and even better has been the Odisha's Kalia scheme. All of these provide direct cash transfers, and this is much more beneficial, and it will cause a reform in agriculture. He also speaks about ITC, on that how ITC has been instrumental in bringing about ITC, the conglomerate, bringing out a revolution in in agriculture. But their e-choppers, for example, are helping about 4 million farmers grow and then sell products as diverse as soya bean, coffee, wheat, rice, pulses, and shrimp across 10 states, across 35,000 villages. In spite of all this, ITC's profits from this entire initiative has been so low that no other company has stepped in as a rival. So, all those who are going for TIS, IRMA, these colleges, please focus on this thing. There's an article by Shobha De. She writes about the drug probe against Bollywood stars, and she feels that there could be a certain form of other influences which are looking into this thing, and it is beyond just a drug agenda. There could be many other issues which are part of this thing. Right. Finally, I would also like to talk about an article by Mr. Gautam Bhatia, who's a renowned architect from India. So he speaks about the fact that there is a perennial. India seems to be perpetually under construction. So he once spoke to a Japanese architect who was very much envious of Mr. Bhatia's position. He said that it must be great to be an architect in a country like India, which is all the time under construction. Bhatia, however, does not fully agree. He says that while that is true, this is something which is really harmful for the environment and for the economy. So we do need less of unnecessary transport. For example, lots of roads being built in and around Delhi to connect large areas. We will soon be covering 40 50 kilometers in very less time, no problem. But he says that all of this, especially now with work from home being so much more possible, mere construction is merely what we call a band-aid on the economy, where more and more people do get employment, but this is does not really lead to anywhere, doesn't lead to any wealth creation. He's speaking also about the Central Vista project, which the government is planning to shift the Parliament House, and how that is going to have a massive cost, but not much of eventual benefits. He's also spoken about endless buildings in new capitals in Chhattisgarh and Andhra Pradesh, also in Kashmir, Uttarakhand, and Himachal. How hills have been flattened due to all of this. This has led to massive ecological and impact, dwindling forest reserves, water being contaminated, air being contaminated. So something does need to be done for this. Right, I would like to end with a story on the state of Uttar Pradesh, where um a film city is being planned. There's already a film city in Noida, but now there is plan to further increase that, and a lot of new things will take place along that. So a lot of plans are being done. Meanwhile, Haryana, the state of Haryana is planning a massive teacher recruitment program, especially for women teachers, because there are lots of co-educational schools within the state where there aren't many female teachers. So that is something which is being worked out. For that, the government is also planning to tweak the present teacher transfer policy. The migratory migration of birds, which takes place every winter to India from um, colder countries, apparently seems to have started a little earlier this year in India. Some migratory birds have been identified already around the Rohtak district of Haryana. So I'm done with the assessment of yesterday's paper. A bit longish session. I hope really informational. This is my code. What are you waiting for? Like, share, and subscribe to the sessions. Do comment as well. I will keep the session open for a couple of minutes in case you have any doubts, and then I will close it. Right? Do write in if there are any doubts and queries. Right, fair enough. I think I can wrap up the session. Thank you so much. Wonderful having you on board. I have another session today at 1:30 p.m. that there I'll analyze today's newspaper. And then at 4 p.m. I have a special class on unacademy.com. Please do not miss either of these classes. See you all today. Take care till then. Thank you. Okay, this is the channel. Do take a look at this channel as well. That's right. Thank you once again, students.